to kindly get started with the session. Thank you.
All right, no worries. I've just searched on another additional light, so I'm hoping I'm visible. First of all, thanks to Inkspell for enabling this wonderful initiative and bringing us together on this platform. Delighted to have this powerful panel. It's both a privilege and an opportunity to be having Amit, Sugato, Rituraj, Piali on the same panel. And the aim is to keep this discussion focused around certain core topics for the benefit of the audience. And to start with, we'll be trying to touch upon certain elements of branding, building brand equity via branded content, and certain elements around customer trust via social listening. So essentially not covering too many topics, but for keeping it focused around 2 or 3 topics and discussing around those. And to start with, almost every company today recognizes the importance of social media and connection with the audience. So people are spending more time than ever before on social media sites, Facebook, Insta, Twitter, LinkedIn. And if we use social media on a daily basis for, say, marketing or customer support, brand building, we might be overlooking the most critical aspect of it, which is social media listening. And it is, of course, it helps act as a catalyst in certain elements of a complete marketing strategy. So I will start with a key question posing to Amit, and then one question to Sagata. So Amit, welcome to the panel, and let me just get directly straight to the point. Around you guys have been doing some wonderful stuff around the personal care segment. So if you could share some of your perspectives on the role of listening in your personal care segment that has shaped up so well, and correlating it to building the customer trust, it would be wonderful.
Sure, Aditya. So I think for us, social media is actually a society.
Amit, I'll just interject. Sorry, due to some problem. My name is reflecting as Aditya, but I don't know why is that happening.
You are Ankoor.
System issue, but yeah, Ankoor. Yeah, I'm Ankoor.
Okay.
It's a Zoom error or something. I don't know why this is happening, but yeah.
That's okay. I think.
Sorry to cut you in between.
So yeah, as I was saying, for us, social media is basically a reflection of what's happening in the society. What's happening with your customers and everybody around, I think. And during COVID time, I think this actually helped us, this whole social media listening to, reshape the entire content strategy. And as you were mentioning the example of personal care, there were a lot of, queries and conversations about, okay, how do you, keep yourself groomed? Because while the outer world was completely shut, but still we were having tons and tons of virtual meetings for professional and personal reasons, and people still wanted to look decently presentable, if not amazing, right? And I think that was something that we picked up from the social media part. So I think we came into action immediately to tell people that maybe this is the time to actually go for self-grooming with whatever products you have, because any which ways you can't go and buy other products. So we came out with a lot of DIY videos with the help of influencers who actually already had our products with them, right? Because even courier was not possible that time. In fact, they were also asking about, from where we are going to buy these products, if at all, if we don't have one, but we need to buy one. Thankfully, the government of India at that time decided to put these grooming appliances in semi-essentials, and these were actually allowed to be placed in the medical store. So for the first time, in fact, we reached out to all the medical stores and ensured that our distribution was optimized on time, in fact, from where people were actually buying these products. And last but not the least, I guess, it was also on the side of the brand to go out and ensure that the messaging was disseminated on time as to it is not really difficult to go for self-grooming, because going outside was still a risky affair, So I think this was just a small example as to how we picked up this entire bit of social media listening and reacted on time and gave the solutions to the customers.
Wonderful. That was a crisp one. So I'll take it from there, and circle with Sugato. Sugato, what has been your experience on, building customer trust via social listening around, because your brand is very much interesting, one of the pioneers, and I'm sure that would be a lot probably you would want to talk about in terms of also some of the important data points or KPIs that you see that is important.
Thanks, Ankoor, and it's quite pertinent that we started on the journey of social media listening, and not just social media listening. Our CEO has a right to the CEO email desk, which is managed by a whole team of 15 people who pick that up, whatever their complaints, suggestions, etc. Now, coming to social media and how we use that to build trust, typically we get three types of if you leave the positive mentions out, you get three other types of, let's say, flow through of information. One is completely negative. Words like, it is bakwas, it doesn't work, it sucks, so on and so forth, which embedded in it are basically feedback on poor quality of service or poor picture quality or set-top box malfunctioning. Then there are pure complaints that I'm unable to reach out to your call center, I am unable to do this, I don't know my account balance and things like that. And then there are neutral comments saying that, can I get these channels on board? Can I get ABCD channel at ABCD price, so and so forth. So on the last weight is where immediate action is taken. So for example, in the last 12 months, we have seen an increasing trend of social media requests for non-entertainment channels. When I mean non-entertainment channels, during lockdown one, there were severe restrictions of creating new content. So the general entertainment channels across languages were forced to run repeats. There were no new movie content, so the movie channels had nothing to show. However, the lifestyle contents, your National Geographics of the world, your history channels of the world, Epic TV, and music channels, they were continued to get, there was a lot of requests to add these channels into their packs or add new channels on our platform. So we added 3 or 4 channels specific to them. Then we also got a feedback from the South, 3 South states in fact, Andhra, Telangana, Tamil Nadu and Kerala, where the state government has started primary and secondary school education channels which are free to air. They are not telecast on the satellite, but they are given through servers, so they're server-based channels. And there was a huge request from Kerala first. There's a channel called Panini and Victors, Kerala Victors. These were added only because of social media listening. The other thing that we listened is, markets are shut down, I don't know how to recharge. So we picked that up and we introduced a couple of small features into our recharge. You could recharge, say I am stuck and I don't know how to recharge because I'm completely cut off. I can call you, Ankoor, and say that, can you recharge for me? So recharge for somebody else using a customer ID which is not related to you. And also in some cases, we allowed the retailer, because the retailers keep calling, and especially in the rural areas, we allowed them to call customers and say that if you cannot recharge, I will give you 5 days of credit. That means for 5 days, you can, because lockdown was eased 1 day of the week for shopping, etc. So that time you come and give me the money. For 5 days, I will, so suppose your monthly recharge is 30 bucks at 300 bucks, 10 bucks into 5, 50 rupees worth of 5 days of content you will get. When you come and recharge, that 50 rupees will get deducted. So these were things which we completely picked up from the social media and started. And they have really helped us.
Wow, that was interesting. Thank you for sharing these examples, Sugata. Is there, I'll just take in from there one more question tangentially to that. Is there one or two, say, situations or use cases of, say, marketing technologies which has been beneficial to you? Some examples that you would want to share? I think that would be...
it coincided with the lockdown, but we have been working on this for some time before that, because some of these technologies you cannot instantly bring to the market. But one of them we bought specifically during lockdown was the chatbot. Now, our the marketplace has got chatbots of various types, some a little more intelligent, some a little more dumb. But we found out that our call centers were not working because the agents could not get to the call centers. So yet customers were requesting for that, I have this problem, I have that problem. So in 14 days time flat, the lockdown started on 22nd of March. By 15th of April, we had a full-fledged automated with partial AI chatbot implemented using one of the better providers in the country. We named it DIA. Actually, it meant digital D2H intelligent assistant. DIA.
DIA.
Yeah.
Can you expand the thing one?
DIA. D2H intelligent assistant.
DIA.
Okay. So Dia is a girl's name, and girls are better suited because they are more patient and so forth. Sorry, I'm not being misogynistic or typecasting. It's just that people are more pleasant to women. So we launched Dia and moved away the call center volume to Dia. That also allowed us to get automatic WhatsApp consents so that your WhatsApp base increases. And now we are on the third phase of implementing the chatbot. So more and more machine learning, more and more AI tools have been inbuilt. So it automatically will guide you based on what you are asking for. It will guide you through the whole process of that without needing at all to move away from the TV screen and the set-top box remote and Dia. Everything can be solved, almost everything, excepting if there's actual machine malfunctioning or if the antenna on top has got turned because of high wind pressure. The other one which we have introduced just as lockdown was starting was our voice-assisted remote. We have two variants of that. One is a dongle which fits into the set-top box and with a Alexa-based remote. So you could, for example, say, Alexa, what is my D2H account balance? And it will tell you the account balance. Alexa, move to ZTV, move to 10 Sports. So it will automatically change the channel. Similarly, we have an Android box which allows the set-top box to seamlessly move between linear channels, so a ZTV and a Z5, which is an OTT using the same remote. That also has got Alexa inbuilt, and the metrics we are getting, we have a fairly large population of these installed in the market already. We know that there are now GEC is, for example, is back in vogue because new shows are coming in, new episodes are coming in. So we can quickly pick up the moment a new show comes or a new title is released on one of the movie channels. We immediately pick up, we see a spike of those search volumes going up across the board, both on the dongle as well as on the remote. So these are two fascinating stuff which we have introduced in the lockdown incidentally. One perfectly because of lockdown and another one was being worked upon, but coincidentally happened just as the lockdown started.
Oh, this is interesting, Sugato. Thank you so much for sharing these insights. This has been helpful. And before I circle with Rituraj and Piali, I would circle back with Amit once again on a quick one in terms of branded content specifically, Amit. I believe there has been certain interesting aspects to branded content shaping up over a period of time that we see. And building the brand equity is not just a mechanical job. I think it needs a lot of thinking through. It's a process, and what are the right elements which go into the right kind of product market fitment, and what kind of things resonate with the audience, a bunch of things, right? So I believe you would have certain interesting elements to share around the a certain specific product category. I believe it could be the LED. My specific question to you is, why do you feel at the first phase for our audience? I mean, why is branded content is even important? Is it a must-have in the mix, or is it something which is dependent on a case-to-case basis, or which is something which can be looked at a certain stage of the funnel? That's my first question. And the second question is any recent campaign you would want to talk about, which was challenging to bring to life in terms of branded content. Yeah.
Okay, I think a lot of questions bundled beautifully. So I will try to answer one by one. So you spoke about how we can build brand equity through the branded content, in that sense. See, I think when I talk of Syska, while it is a diversified brand today, into various categories, it is still known across the country for its LED portfolio. Now, back then, around say 10 years back or so, LED as a category was broadly B2B. It was very institutional in that sense, right? And that's where we realized the sweet spot that was very unaddressed in that sense, in the retail space in this country, and that's became actually the strength of this brand. From day one, we decided that we are going to remain very, very B2C centric, and that's where the opportunity of creating branded content comes in. That's one part of it. Second is, it is really difficult to go out in this country and sell a product which is comparatively costlier than the counterparts. So example, if I'm talking about LED, yes, I mean, like it's a known fact that when it comes to your CFLs and filament products, it is definitely costly, right? Maybe by 15-20%. And people and customer in this country are very, very price sensitive, so to say, that, oh, why I should spend 20 rupees or 30 rupees more on a bulb, right? Because bulb is a bulb is a bulb. That's a reality. So I think that's the customer insight we got through extensive research, which was done before the entire branded content strategy was formulated. And because of that, we were in the position to, create a very sharper sort of a proposition from the brand, which was about savings. Because the moment you talk about savings in this country, people are like, what? Kya, kaise, kab, kyun, kahan?
I agree with you. Yes.
Yeah. So I think that's how we decided that we will, ride our entire branded content strategy on saving, because that is going to resonate very strongly with the target audience, right? And not only it will help you to save money, because it is about saving energy as well, because there is a strong purpose also for the brand, right? So I think that's what we decided to use and continue for a good amount of time, because changing habit is definitely a mammoth task. It will not change overnight, right? So I think that's in a very short that I spoke about as to how we ensured that we create this equity for the brand with the help of this branded content used across various avenues. But the important part is that it was very consistent. It never changed its tonality. In fact, we were advocating the usage of the LED bulb in our conversations. We were never being very pushy that, oh, please go and buy Syska LED. No, we spoke about at least start using LED bulbs. So I think these are some of the very, beautiful aspects of our behavior that we were able to, realize and use and ensure that it is recalled strongly by the stakeholders. In fact, so much so that I remember when Irfan Khan was not doing well last year, people were actually coming to us on social media and asking about as to how is he doing. I think that's a testimony in itself, that as to how strongly people connect LED to Syska or Syska to Irfan Khan, or with vice versa. And I think that's quite a success in its own self, right? So I think that's how we look at this whole equity for the brand in the space of branded content. When you spoke about any challenge that I had in terms of my campaign and how did we address, I remember we were launching smart home products. Now these products are basically like IoTized products, like maybe like example, your bulb becomes a smart bulb, and when it becomes smart, it gives you 16 million colors, and you can control that with the help of your voice assistant, your apps, etc. But suddenly, when we spoke about smart bulb, the first tendency for people is to not to believe it and say, बहुत difficult है ये, मैं नहीं कर सकता, because आपने इतना इसको difficult बना दिया है, So I think with that as an insight, what we decided,
because you've made it smarter. Yeah.
So I think that's where we realized that we need to approach this space a little differently. We need not show our target audience using the product. What we actually did was we actually used children to actually go out and use these products, because the message was very clear and subtle that if children can use these smart products, then you can any which ways use these products very easily. So I think it was more about, that mental block that people had about this entire portfolio. So I think this was one such insight. And I think one of the question was about, is it really important in this entire journey of, in this entire journey of creating that equity for the brand? See, it is, I think, up to the very brand that you want to sort of address. For me, it's important to ensure that as a brand, I should not be only transactional. I know being transactional, you mean business, you mean revenue, but that's just one part of the story. But there is a side effect also of this strategy, because if you remain only transactional, then people will always expect you to talk discounts and ek pe ek free lelo types wala language. I think is not the only thing a brand is about, right? I think so. My point is, it is yes important to have the branded content in the media mix so that you remain being beyond transactional. So I hope that sort of answers all your queries.
No, absolutely. I think I totally agree with you in aiming to see beyond transactional. And we'll just circle back again, and Sugata needs to. Sugata, just one last piece of wisdom we need from you for our audience, that if you would want to summarize your top 2 or 3 pillars, that what are the essentials from your perspective, from your experience? Because the ecosystem has changed over a period of time, right? Being so dynamic. I mean, if you see the past 10 years, the past 5 years, plus the past 2 years, I mean, a lot has changed in terms of behavior, pattern, consumption. And probably the things are going to change again. It's not exactly post-COVID, but things are going to change again post, things settle down far more. But your top 2 or 3, which you would say that are essential within the marketing mix that you have realized in order to build trust with the audience? Sagata, I think you're on mute.
Yeah, sorry, I missed that. I was a little inattentive, paying attention more to my...
No worries. I'll repeat my question, Sagata. No worries at all. I know you've got a hard stop, so I wanted to, wrap up your time. My last question was, if you would want to share a piece of wisdom, in terms of summarizing your top 2 or 3 pillars to build trust with the audience, because of certain elements, because of the dynamic ecosystem that we are in. So, what do you think would you recommend to the fraternity, to the community, that as per your experience?
For us, the way we are looking at it is essentially 3 prongs or 4 prongs, I would say. First is real-time listening. For example, earlier we had a 24-hour turnaround between you posting and us reacting. We have brought it down. Thanks to the lockdown, we are able to respond faster. We have brought it down to 4 hours. Immediately, we have seen improvement of our net promoter. That means the number of positive mentions versus the negative mentions versus the neutral mentions. So listening is very, very important. The other thing is not just social listening. If you are doing a consumer satisfaction survey, whether it is offline product or an online product or a media product like us, listening to that is important, and converting that into a benefit and then talking about it in social media really helps. For example, you said the recharge process at the retailer was clunky. This is what we have done. Now this is how it works. Immediately we get positive references to that, which means social listening, CSAT scores being followed and acted upon, very critical. And the time you take to do that, just saying that this is a problem and after 5 months coming back and saying that, hey, I solved your problem, it's of essence, because if we take so much time, then immediately the language and the frustration of the customer and the subscriber goes haywire. Then they start spewing bad words and all of that, and keeps escalating. And then 5 other people will say, yeah, it sucks. It's terrible, with no factual.
That takes a snowball effect. Yeah, I totally agree.
So it just exponentially increases. So to address the problem in the shortest possible time, immediately gives credibility and trust to the brand, which is the essence of any brand really. If your trust and credibility ratios are high in your brand health studies, it automatically means that there will be advocacy and there will be people pulling for your product. The other one is to use technology, especially marketing technology, as much as possible. Now we are moving into a world of AI and machine learning. So we are, for example, we are working towards a world where there won't be any physical retailers. There may be no physical remotes handed over. As smartphone penetration increases, why do I have to spend money and give you a clunky remote? You know, something like this. I don't need to do that. Everybody has a smartphone and there are multiple people in the home. So you can just download the app and keep using it. And 5 people can have 5 remotes in the house. And we will be able to also, as a backend, to understand what kind of feedback you are getting in terms of what channels are being served by whom in the family, etc., etc. So it also has a backend benefit. Second is our social media, our digital platforms are gearing up for 100% of acquiring new customers on online media, which means the kind of offers that you need to make, the kind of UI, UX experience you need to do, kind of understanding of the customer, outguessing him. Therefore, the need to use artificial intelligence, self-learning programs, very, very important. Because then, suppose I am coming in from, let's say, Bombay's Cuff Parade, that's where I'm coming in from. I know where you're coming from. Then I will automatically throw up those products which are relevant to you. Maybe the Android box is going to be relevant to you. Maybe a multi-TV offer is going to be relevant to you. However, when you are coming in from, let's say, a Bareilly, I will give you a completely different, less English programs, more Hindi programs, more localized programs, less international programs, more movies, more action-oriented movies, more South Indian dubbed movies. I will give you that package. So this kind of understanding, without me asking you where you are coming from, please put in your demographics and psychographics. Without doing that, if I can give you the right thing, that would be the area that we are going to work on. So these are the 3 areas or 4 things that we are going to work on. 2 we already doing, 2 we shall.
Absolutely. Wonderful. I mean, thank you, Sugato. That was wonderful for you to summarize. I hope this benefits our fraternity. And
need to just log off.
Absolutely, Sugato. That's the reason why we wrapped you up. But have a wonderful evening. And thank you so much for joining.
Thank you.
Right. And with that, Amit, thank you. I'll circle back with you in a bit. I'll just move to Piali. And before I move to Rituraj, we'll discuss slightly touch upon the content segment, because what Piali is into is very interesting in terms of Columbia Pacific communities. So Piali, a very simple question, and I and probably everybody out here would want to know that what, according to you, it's not exactly, as I said, a post-COVID era though, but what do you see as a lot has changed in terms of the content consumption pattern, considering specific to, the kind of brand that you're managing, the kind of product that you have, that how things have shaped up? Has it been a boon in disguise, or has it shown some challenges? How people are responding to it, to your product? So a little bit on the content side of things would be great to hear from you.
Right. Thank you so much, Ankoor, for the question. The fact that everything has changed in the last 18 months, I think, is really stating the obvious. But I think what has changed is a lot of facets of consumer behavior itself, and content is directly linked to that. I think the biggest change has been that, today, while it is a fact that, consumers today are spending a lot more time on digital devices, and, the time has probably gone up 2x in the post-COVID, era. And I think the average today is about 3 hour, 10 minutes kind of time that they're spending, across the digital ecosystem, but mostly on social media. But I think today consumers are also expecting to be educated through content. They're expecting to be entertained through content. They're expecting to be educated through content. And I think that if that expectation, when that is not met, I think while on one hand, it's good news for marketers that, average time spent on platforms have gone up because of COVID, but it's also true that, more and more people have actually started blocking ads if you just look at the data, right? In fact, data will tell you that India is the second largest blocker of ads, after Indonesia. So I think that's not really great news. So I think it's about then how do you kind of how do you approach content, right? I think today what has happened post COVID is that there is a general openness towards accepting different formats of content. So for example, Reels was launched right after the pandemic, I think sometime in July, August last year, pretty much in the midst of the pandemic, right? Right after the TikTok ban. If you look at Clubhouse as a new platform, I know that ads are not there currently. I mean, they're not really selling ad units, but it is a platform that is attracting advertisers, that is attracting marketers. Lots of brands are actually considering Clubhouse and trying to see how they can use content to engage people, because the average time spent on that platform is very, very high. So I think that what has changed is definitely the manner in which content is being consumed, both in terms of the time spent as well as the openness to platform, but also I think the utility of the content, just to sum it up, right? And whether people are finding that relevant, whether people are finding that educative, and also something that they're entertained by. I mean, to quote David Ogilvy, who said that don't bore your consumers, interest them. I think we're kind of going back to that philosophy for sure.
Right. No, thanks, Piali. I think it's pretty much relevant. And I'll circle with actually Rituraj has been waiting very patiently. Rituraj, we are kind of not able to see you much because of some lighting thing that, I realized that when...
this is the best lighting that I can get given the circumstances. So, I think Amit will say that, we should have used, Syska lights.
Syska lights, yeah. Absolutely. No.
So it's great to see all of you. Amit, I think we meet in the panel only, man. So I think we need to change that. Yeah, go on, Ankoor.
Yeah, I mean, so the good part is out here we have different businesses and different business models. So it will be interesting to hear from you, Rituraj. On the digital side of things, now advertising has become also a thinking through process. The media mix, it's not that probably easy in terms of how do we think through a particular media mix, how do we think through a particular campaign, considering there are so many new technologies, new vendors, new platforms that are coming up, which is yielding what, how do you measure, how do you attribute in a certain platform, what percentage in branding and what percentage in performance, how do you attribute performance, what should be the core KPI. And there are multiple things. I mean, being from the agency perspective, I mean, there are so many things that we need to think through for a particular brand or for a particular product, for a particular category. The research that goes behind it, as Amit mentioned, I mean, obviously a bunch of research that needs to be done. So is there any one or two platforms, which from your perspective, which you're looking at to advertise in the next, 6 months or upcoming future? What would that be? I mean, and why?
So, so I would say that if I have to pick one platform that I can advertise in the next 6 months' time, that will be podcasts and Clubhouse specifically, because it's all about attention, and these platforms seem to be gaining a lot of it. So Clubhouse is available on Android. I think it is available on iOS also now, and it's an invite-only platform. Beauty of it is that all conversations are voice-based. And you can enter into any meeting room, be a silent listener, and leave whenever you want to. Now there are some data points that Piali touched on it, and it's very relevant. That in the month of June, out of 6.7 million downloads that Clubhouse recorded, 5.2 million were from India, and that particular report is shared by Sensor Tower data. And in May, India's share of downloads was 1.7 million out of 3.8 million. So it's gaining, it's gaining traction. There is one more report which says that that 10 million weekly active users, are there on that platform, and around 3 lakh rooms are created each day. And, people spend over an hour a day on that app. If you look at podcasts, a podcast is, if you look at Spotify owned Ankoor, which is a podcast making platform, it has added around 25,000 podcasts from India in 2020. The data is little dated, but it gives us a very good context. And, according to, one of the report, which is Media and Entertainment Outlook 2020 report by PwC, India has emerged as the third largest podcast listening, market in the world after China and US. And we have clocked around 57.6 million monthly listeners. So that's a very huge, amount of, attention which is there on, these platforms. Now, there are 3 reasons actually for popularity of podcasts in India. One is it is intimate and non-intrusive. Much like radio, podcasts are, you can listen to it in the background and you do your other work. Second is plethora of genres. So most popular on Spotify is arts, entertainment, education, and lifestyle and health. And third is speaking many languages. So there are 2 examples that I can, think about when it comes to podcasts. So there is a Kadai podcast, Ponniyin Selvan, which narrates Kalki Krishnamurthy's classic Tamil novel. And it is by IBM. It's the most popular show of IBM. Second example is Rakesh Tiwari's Millennial Kavi, which was most streamed. Actually, it was streamed 2.6 million, streams on Jio Savan in 2020. And apart from that, if you look at it, PwC has estimated that the podcasts annual growth CAGR will be around 30%. The listeners growth. So there are quite a few things which are working in favor of podcasts and Clubhouse. So definitely, as marketers, we need to look at how we can leverage attention on those platforms. And these are not very typical straight up your alley kind of platforms. This requires very different kind of treatment. I think Amit has done some good initiatives in the voice based aspect of things, and I always follow Syska because he has been leading the portfolio really well and pushing the envelope. So really happy to see the progress Amit that Syska is doing.
Wonderful. This is wonderful. Thank you, Rituraj. I'll circle back with Piali on Piali. Any specific example you would want to share in context of Columbia Pacific communities, that has helped in building the brand equity or your brand over a period of time in terms of a trust or in terms of communication, in terms of how has it shaped up in the past, say considerably in the past 6 months or so? Any example that you would want to quote, because your category is slightly different in terms of the initiatives that you've brought up, and that's what I wanted to ask.
Yeah, so I think, you're right in saying that it is a very, very different category, and so a lot of the rules of the game that may apply to certain other categories may not actually work for us because our audience is primarily a senior audience. But having said that, content has played a remarkable role in the past, why just 6 months, but throughout the pandemic. In fact, one of the things that I should have mentioned the last time you asked about what has changed, I think what has definitely changed is that people are seeing, brands are seeing content as obviously a very important sales tool, which is a far less expensive sales tool as well, right? It is about 60 to 70% less expensive than anything else that you want to sort of invest in. And in terms of the brand, yes, we've seen traction coming in from a pure sales point of view through content. That's definitely happened. But I think what's happened also is that over the last 6 to 12 months, I think our primary audience, which is senior citizens, they've actually realized the importance of living in a community because let's not forget that this was the most vulnerable set of people, definitely in the first wave of COVID, but also in the second wave. I think you saw senior citizens get impacted massively, their lives getting impacted massively, the whole sense of hopelessness of not having a support system around them, not being able to visit with people not being, not being able to physically see their children, etc., not having maids to support them with their daily chores and all of those things. I think they really, all of that drove home the point that, community living is the way to go for seniors. And I think that obviously was amplified by us through communication. I think as a brand, our brand ethos, which is positive aging, is something that we use as a key differentiator. That is definitely something that's helped us position ourselves as a brand that truly enables people to age positively and empower seniors in this country. And I think that narrative is something that we have very strongly invested in terms of various initiatives that we've taken over a period of time, not just 6 months. But since you specifically mentioned 6 months, in the midst of the second wave, so I'm talking June, right, when all you heard was just bad news, and a lot of it was just happening all around you. I mean, you just had to switch on the TV and it was just bad news. And we heard our audience, through listening or otherwise, I mean, the sentiment that was coming to us was that they were extremely overwhelmed by what was happening around them. They were not able to handle the emotions, right? Also because they were isolated, and all of that made it a lot worse. And we reached, we did a campaign, in association with Fortis Mental Health Care, called Reach Out, which was basically done specifically for seniors that were feeling overwhelmed by what was going on. And they could call a toll-free number, have a conversation with a trained counselor, without having to pay anything. So the whole thing was actually made free for them, and be able to get some basic, first aid kind of support that they needed in order to navigate through these very difficult times. This obviously helped us, solidify our positioning as a brand that is one that truly bats for seniors. And positive aging as a philosophy is very simple. It is about helping seniors live healthier, better, emotionally stronger, physically stronger, lives for longer. That's really the core philosophy of positive aging. And therefore, it is about empowering seniors. It is about helping them take charge of their lives. And I mean, through various campaigns and initiatives that we do from time to time, it just helps us take that message forward. Even currently, as we speak, we've just about 4 days back, we've launched our campaign for World Senior Citizens Day, which is supported by Banerji, and it's a campaign called Reply Don't Reject, which basically is based on a very, very simple insight. And the insight is this, that when you get forwards and good morning messages and various other, very seemingly irrelevant messages from senior citizens in your WhatsApp, they're not mere forwards. They're actually a cry for help. It is about them telling you how lonely they are, and it's about them just wanting to have a conversation with you, right? Seniors and loneliness amongst seniors is a global issue. It is an issue that plagues countries across the world. India is one of them for sure, and it is the single most debilitating factor in their lives. And this campaign is actually to help seniors feel less lonely. But the campaign is actually targeted to younger people, to tell them that, the next time you get a message like that, the next time you get a forward message, a good morning or a quote or something like that, which irritates you otherwise, think about why these messages are coming to you and pick up the phone and have that conversation. So it's called Reply Don't Reject. It's an initiative launched on the occasion of World Senior Citizens Day. It's already got very, very positive response, and we will continue to do these kind of things on the brand side, because we believe that not only is it important, but I think it's important to challenge status quo and look at age-related perceptions that people have in this country and constantly be able to challenge that and fight ageism.
Well, definitely, Reply Don't Reject, I think, is a powerful narrative. Just out of curiosity, when you segment it into a performance side of things, what kind of audience do you actually target? I mean, the kind of age bracket that you target.
So on the performance side, there is a primary audience. That segment would be, people in the age bracket of 55 and above. And within that also, of course, there are segments. So the 55 plus would be people that are nearing retirement and looking for retirement community. So they're people that are typically planning retirement and thinking of options. The second segment would be, let's say, people who are 60, 65 plus, who have already retired and are looking to change, looking to bring in a positive change in their lifestyle and therefore wants to move into a community for, just a better life. And the third segment would be a slightly older demographic, which is, let's say, would be about 70, 75 plus, who are in need of support. And by that, I don't mean, assisted living, which is an option that we currently do not have available in this country. But we are, it's about needing basic support to lead, a productive life. And that would be the primary audience, and the segments within that, right? The secondary audience is a much more younger audience, people in the age bracket of 28 to 40. So people like us, people who don't live with. I'm sorry?
No, yeah, I was trying to arrive at that once you target this segment, then obviously there should be a secondary audience, I think.
Yeah, there is a secondary audience, which is people like us, people who don't live with our parents, who are away from them, either because we've chosen jobs that have taken us elsewhere or for any other reason. So children of parents who are either in a different city in the country or not in the country at all, who are constantly worried about the welfare of their parents, and are therefore looking at a solution like this. So that would be the audience and the segments.
Wonderful. Thank you, Piali. This was very insightful. And before, in the interest of time, so we've got 10 minutes. What we are going to do is I'm going to circle with Rituraj on one question and then circle with Amit, Piali, and Rituraj on a closing statements. Rituraj, if a simple question in terms of acceptance, mindset, or buying behavior, how do you see the adaptability for new media in the market from a marketer's lens? Very simple, but I feel this is a complex question. It needs to be. I mean, it does not sound that simple though, but it is complex. But yeah, I would love to hear your thoughts.
Yeah, I would want to answer it in a very simple manner. Hope I'll be successful. So if you look at recently, Gen Z, as a segment, groceries and snacks has seen a rise in online fulfillment by more than 3x space. All right. Now, if you look at makeup and personal care products, saw a rise of 40% in its online fulfillment. Now, people are discovering more portals and brands in online space. Now, OTT consumption, and Piali touched upon it a little bit, OTT consumption has seen a meteoric rise in the viewership of subscribed services. Around 80% of content consumption has shifted and remained online. Yep. Now, if you look at it from a specific industry perspective, Gen Z and millennials both have focused on essential consumption and upskilling. And essential items received over a third of share of wallet for the millennial and Gen Z audience. Now, spends in new categories such as content and learning have also risen. But from a marketer's perspective, what is more important are 3-4 aspects. One is local SEO that will garner maximum momentum. So hyperlocal content has to be focused on. Second is product quality. That will be a game changer because online reviews will really matter. Third is shopping online. Now, Gen Z have increased their online, shopping base 2.5 times from 12% to 30%, and millennials, on the other hand, have doubled their online shopping, base from 16% to 32% during the lockdown. Now, online shopping ads, local inventory ads, curbside pickup ads, etc., will be really important. And these are a few ad formats which are launched very recently. If you go through Google. Marketing, live stream, recording very recently. Now, and apart from that, the most important aspect will be virtual is going to become next physical. So there are quite a few brands who have adopted the virtual aspect of things, and nearly 70% of millennials and Gen Z express their agreement in the likelihood of continuing to subscribe to online education in a post-pandemic world. So that gives you a very good perspective on how exactly the world is moving. And I hope I was able to answer the simple question in a simple manner.
Oh yes, absolutely. I think that was really crisp. Rituraj, thank you so much. And closing statements, Amit, I request you to just summarize with your, favorite top three pillars, basis your experience, or top two, which is important during this period, specifically. Obviously, things may change in the next 1 year, 2 years, how things are, moving in a particular direction right now. But what would you say as a next practice rather than there are best practices which we share, but from your lens, any next practice that you see that you would want to recommend, or your one or two strong pillars that you would want to recommend to the fraternity that works for you?
So before I answer that question, I need to admit that now I have realized whom to call if I am looking out for some data, and that's going to be Rituraj. He has, I think, tons of data for everything that we are talking today.
I realize so.
Yeah. So I think, I won't be, talking about best practices, because I think there is nothing called best, I guess. There is always something or the other that keeps on changing, and, it keeps on replacing, right? Whatever was best maybe 10 years before is now obsolete, right? And things will continue the same way. I don't think so there's going to be the best per se, something that I can talk about. But yes, I think I can talk about the practical practices which are still going to be relevant, because before we are marketeers, we are customers, and I think that's something I strongly believe in, individually and professionally as well. So I think if that's the premise, I think for me to look at as to how can I, create that trust with my consumers, the first thing is, you need to be very agile. I think today we have so much of, goldfish memory issues that, you don't want to wait, so you really want something, fast. Abhi chahiye mujhko. So I think my point is that, irrespective of your category, your product or your service, agility is something that is always appreciated, no matter, who you are, right? And across the value chain, not only for, customers, but everybody in that whole process, right? Second is, I think, I have seen a lot many times brands are very scared of saying no to customers, and I don't understand why. Even saying no is a clarity. Because if you really compare with yes, YES, and NO, no, it's easy, right? It's only 2 letters, right? But still, log bahut darte hain na bolne se. I don't know why. So even as a brand, if you think there is something that you really cannot deliver, or you cannot, arrange for your customers, just go and say, okay, fine, we don't do these things, right? So I think that's a second thing. And I think, and whenever you say no, I think customers are, going to believe you all the more, because, you have told them certain things very clearly. And last but not the least, I guess, this whole thing, in this country, I believe, we are masters, right, in creating this awesome experience, before and during the purchase, right? Whether it is again a product or a service. But we fail miserably in the last leg of this entire ecosystem, which is after sales. So my point is, if we are able to create that very seamless after sales service ecosystem, I think, customers are going to love you, because problems hoti hai. I think nothing is foolproof, right? Even if you buy something, possibilities that maybe, it will give you some trouble in the future, right? But if I'm able to get that support from the brand, I think that's the awesome experience, right? So I think these are some of the things that I personally try to weave in the programs that we dish out as a marketeer, to ensure that at least, if not 100%, we achieve them at least 20, 30, 40% also. That's also okay.
No, wonderfully summarized, Amit. I think, yes, agility is very important. Saying no, how to say no in certain circumstances, that's also important. Then seamless after-sales servicing, obviously, that's, I think, the spinal cord of a bunch of things. So wonderfully summarized, Amit. Thank you so much. And Piali, your closing statements. Anything you see as a next practice rather than a best practice, or in the upcoming years, or what has worked for you, or you retailers situation?
So Ankur, I mean, I sort of would echo Amit's thoughts on, there is nothing called next. In fact, the reason I would say that is because, the next normal that people are talking about, a lot of those consumer behaviors in the next normal are still being formed, right? We're still very much coming to terms with this new way of living life. I know we've been living like this for about 18 months, but what is 18 months compared to a whole lifetime that we have, known a different sort of life, right? So it's not as if the changing behavior that we hear so much about are these are set in stone and this is how it is going to be. Some of it, of course, will change irrevocably, but a lot of it will perhaps change and then go back. We don't really know. So it's all getting formed, and I think it's important for us to therefore watch this very closely, right? This whole transformation that's happening as marketers, particularly, to watch this very closely. The second thing that I would say, whether it's a next stage or whether it's any stage, I mean, these are some of those classics. They're immortal. Is to be authentic as a brand. I mean, this is something that I personally feel quite passionate about, and I think there's nothing more important than being authentic as a brand and knowing who you are as a brand. And not every moment marketing is for you, not every meme marketing is for you, and to understand that. And I think, if you are going to be obsessed with sort of hijacking a trend and jumping on a trend to kind of, be on your audience's top of mind for 5 minutes at the cost of losing who you are as a brand and what you stand for, I think it's a dangerous trend. And I think it's very important to realize that. And I think the third thing is to be transparent, which is also part of being authentic, but really transparent in your dealings, transparent in your entire sales process. A lot of trust building is really about transparency. I think trust building is also about paying very close attention to your entire sort of sales life cycle, every single touch point, no matter how small it is, because every single touch point does matter, particularly in the day and age that we're living in, where brands are constantly under a lot of scrutiny as well, as they rightfully should be. And understanding that brand building is really a two-way process. You have to listen to your customer. Now, whether you do it digitally or you do it in person is something that the nature of the business that you're in will decide, but you have to listen to your customer. You have to take feedback. You have to understand what their pain points are. And then, accordingly, sort of chart the course of your your destination. And I think your customer sentiments definitely has to be a very important part of building a brand. So yeah, those I think would be my 2 bits.
Thank you, Piali. Thank you so much. My thumb rule is like, yeah, consumers today are very intelligent. I mean, 2 decades back, there was only Surf and Nirma, where consumers needed to make 2 choices, either pick this or this, and there was only DD1 and DD2. So right now, consumers have so many choices, and they have become, touch points the journey has become so linear that touch points have become multiple, so many touch points. So I always play by the rule that consumers today are very intelligent, they're sentimental also, and they take decisions dependent on various factors. So I agree with you. I mean, monitoring closely through the transition, then authenticity is very important. Then transparency across this whole journey of the life cycle process, I think it's very crucial. Totally agree. Balling to Rituraj, your closing statements. Let's not talk about any practices. You tell me whatever you feel is your wisdom to the fraternity and community.
I would say there are 3 main points. So one is keep an eye on consumer sentiments. Second is stay focused on fundamentals. Understand audience very well. What kind of content they are consuming. So one rule of thumb is if you really want to understand as a market. So we as marketers, what is definition of our role is we are trading attention. So we need to know which particular platform has better attention. In order to know that, we actually need to understand which type of platforms are gaining attention. So one base practice which I do is I look at all the genres on fortnightly basis, and I look at which top 10 apps are gaining traction in in India per se. So say for example, my focus is India, so I'll look at in entertainment, in fashion, in sports, in food, which are top 10 apps, which I mean you will be easily find that out from Play Store, and that basically gives you an idea that okay, where the attention is moving. So that's what I call about stay focused on fundamentals. And the third and the most important thing is if your brand fits into your TG's decision making process. Okay, now Piali touched upon it really nicely, is that you should not be part of a fad just to get 5 minutes of attention. All right. We have seen enough examples of gaming platforms. One is Stadia, all right, which was launched. So online gaming, which you can do. You just need to have a remote control with you, and you will be you can actually play first person, second person game, right? Another example is Oculus Rift, right? Facebook has been trying to get an inroads in the augmented reality, virtual reality segment, which has still not happened. Okay, I mean, if we ask a raise of hand, how many of us have Oculus Rift headsets? I don't have. I'm a digital marketing person, but it is not figuring into my scheme of things as a consumer. I don't have Stadia's remote. It is not focusing to my scheme of things. I do have a PlayStation Portable. It is handheld device. So PlayStation and Xbox still rules that that particular space, and that is what I mean when it comes to, you need to understand the decision making process of your consumer. You need to fit into your TG's decision making process. So that is what I would advise all the marketers out there to focus on.
No, definitely. I mean, it needs to be data driven plus logic driven also, and it's more to do with what you mentioned, Rituraj, monitoring what is performing how, according to, and who all are participating in that. Like for example, a Clubhouse, there are mixed reviews on that. So I mean, it depends. But there are a lot of platforms. I mean, I read a recent report by, I think InMovie came up with it, the rise of women gamers in India. I was surprised to see that report. I mean, I was not aware that women gaming is rising so much in India. I mean, so there are a lot of traction happening across various touch
trust me,
points.
I know a couple of them who are like really good in online gaming. And when PUBG was there, actually out of 10 people whom I knew who play PUBG, out of them at least 5 of them were women, and they were really good.
Wow, it's good to know. Wow. So in the interest of time, I think we have overshot the time by about 5-6 minutes, but I don't know about others. I enjoyed this discussion. I enjoyed having Amit, Rituraj, Piali, and it was, I mean, we'll keep connected offline as well. There's so much to discuss. I mean, 1 hour, 60 minutes does not do justice to discussing even one point over digital, but I think it was a wonderful session. I enjoyed it, and I hopefully everybody did. Vipul, over to you, over to Inkspell for the next closing.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, I think this has been a fantastic session.